The offseason is well underway, and we here at Locked On NHL Game Night are tackling the toughest questions with our favorite local experts.
Yes, we are. And tonight we head up to the 6, where there are some lingering woes.
The Toronto Maple Leafs, they let Mitch Marner walk, kind of. Will that help or hinder them?
We'll answer that question and so much more as we welcome Leafs expert Dave Morasudi on this summer edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hello there, hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On NHL Game Night Season Preview Edition. I'm Cam Stuart, a sad Boston Bruins fan at my local public library.
I like to hear that you're reading more, Cam. Maybe that'll help your Bruins next season.
Maybe.
Reading helps you learn. Learning helps you evolve. Maybe that's your Bruins this season. Hey, I'm Tyler Feldman, a lifelong Penguins fan, born and raised in Pittsburgh, currently still loving life in Austin, Texas. Look at this special guest we've got. No one shines brighter up in Toronto than Dave Morasudi. Dave, welcome to this summer session edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
I'm already regretting not wearing my Jays gear for this because I got my Cam here who's at the top of the AL East.
Hey, look, we're coming. All right? Don't sleep on us just yet.
And this is maybe more of a Cam comment, but the Toronto Blue Jays logo color scheme may be my favorite in all of professional sports.
Oh, especially when they wear like the baby blue attire. Oh, it's great. It's my favorite.
And Cam will love this too. We'll talk a little baseball here just quickly, Cam. Just let me indulge real quickly. Visited Toronto way back in the day, family vacation, loved it. Hockey Hall of Fame, Blue Jays game. They were playing the Yankees, one of your favorite teams, Cam. Derek Jeter started from all the way down as far as he could go along the third base side, signing autographs, wrapping around behind home plate, all the way up to the first base side. And at that point, I'm not a Yankees fan, but I am a Derek Jeter fan. And that happened in Toronto, where the Toronto Maple Leafs play their hockey, or at least try to.
Down the road, yeah. It's not surprising either. A lot of Yankees fans always love to invade the dome.
I was there 15 years ago or so, 2009. So I haven't seen the new Rogers Center. I've got to check it out because obviously it looks much, much different. But I would like to get to a Leafs game at some point. I'm going to take out a second mortgage and get a loan from the bank and get up to Toronto and see the Leafs play.
Yeah, you should leave Boston and go up to a game.
There you go.
I can't acknowledge that. Sorry.
Acknowledge it. Come on.
Can't do it.
It's early. Just acknowledge it. What I
can't acknowledge is Mitch Marner, local hero,
Okay.
no longer a Leaf, down in Vegas. Technically, it works out as a trade, but they weren't going to re-sign him. And I don't know if he was going to re-sign in Toronto after what we heard after the trade. Sounds like he was plotting this for quite a while. So, Dave, just take us first through what the reaction has been from Leafs fans and how you're looking forward to January the 23rd as Marner makes his return to his former home arena.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to give a word to describe it, disappointment, because you don't like seeing a guy like that just leave, right, and get nothing back. And that's been kind of the anger and frustration in all this, is that there were like little tidbits that were suggesting that this was coming, right? I kind of said it last year. I said, this doesn't sound like a guy who's like hot and ready to sign a dot on the contract to come back. And so that's probably the one there. And yeah, you bring up the day he's going to come back. If you didn't like the attention from Toronto when he was playing here, wait until he comes back. And wait until he's the first time the Leafs play in Vegas. It's not too long before he makes a return to the Leafs are in Vegas. Usually, like, Toronto media now haven't been traveling as much. There might be a few more making that trip over to Vegas.
Love that mid-January too.
Yeah,
tough to see him leave for Vegas.
David,
Dave, though, in all seriousness, how would you evaluate his decision? One, does it make Toronto better? And if so, in what aspects? And can you walk us through maybe a little bit of Mitch Marner's mindset into why he made this decision?
Yeah, so I'll start with the mindset one first. I think it kind of ties everything on all together, because he I think got to a point where he felt like he was becoming like the enemy among the fan base. He was being, blamed for a lot of what was going on in the playoffs and the team just not reaching their goals. And he's a local kid. He feels it a lot more because, everyone expects the local kid to step up and want to win it for his team. I do think that was the case.
It's tough to alienate the Ontario kids, by the way. I'd advise against that for the Leafs fans with how many NHLers they produce.
The longest time the Leafs were criticized for not having players from Toronto in Toronto, like the big star players. And then it all started with Marner, right? Bringing in Marner, and Nazem Kadri was also another one of those. It's just like, okay, now it's kind of, Mike Babcock once famously said, we want to make it safe for these guys to come and play at home. It didn't really work out that way in the end there for Marner. And so I think this was also a case where, I think his mindset was, I've done what I can in a lot of ways to try to, get this team to the next level. But frankly, if you ask a lot of these fans, part of why they think that the Leafs might be better off is when the crunch time comes, somebody else is going to be stepping up, because Mitch Marner hadn't really been doing it. Now, do I think the Leafs are better without Marner? No, because the guy scored over 100 points. Those guys are pretty valuable to your team. But at the same time, and it's funny because there was a big conversation on one of the Toronto radio shows about how the Leafs are truly going to miss Marner's production in the playoffs. And the analyst was just like, what production in the playoffs? The guy was invisible in games 5, 6, and 7. That's been the big discussion between Mike and I on the Locked On Leafs, is that, frankly, as much as Marner has helped them get to the playoffs, has elevated guys like Auston Matthews and been a big part of their success, every time the Leafs have been eliminated or have faced struggles to close out series, everyone points to how Mitch Marner's kind of struggling to raise his game to that level. And I think there's part of it's the pressure of being in Toronto. It does not help. I understand that.
I just want to interject real quick, because I love that point. We're all three of us are part of some pretty intense fan bases. Is there a part of the Leafs fan base that sympathizes with, it's just a really tough place to play, it's a really tough era right now, everybody knows exactly how long it's been and how talented this core is?
Yeah, there are a lot of people who sympathize. Like they see how the way that players are talked about in the media, and they're always coming to the players' defense. But this is also something that a lot of we have a Discord with some of our top listeners, and they're like, but at the same time, if you win here, you're a god.
Yeah,
like you're like you don't have.
But how many gods are in Toronto then? None.
There's folk heroes. Like if people see Darcy Tucker on the street, a guy who's not considered a superstar by other fan bases, this guy is treated like royalty, right? Wendell Clark, Doug Gilmour.
Wendell, I think, is one step from Gretzky in Ontario.
Like the twinkle of the eyes of some of the Leafs fans when I bring up those guys, or if they see a highlight pack of him on, like, again, it just shows that the bar for Mitch Marner wasn't too high, right? We're not asking him to do it himself. It's just, play with that passion that fans are looking for. And there was times where they felt like that just wasn't the case. And Marner didn't really help himself with some of the comments he has said in the media in the past about not really caring about certain things. And like his kind of nonchalant attitude wasn't really good. I think that's just kind of his way to not bring extra pressure to himself, but it kind of backfired on him. And it all really started in 2019 with that first contract extension, the first contract section he signed. Auston Matthews signed. Everyone thought Marner was going to be an easy one, and his agent comes out and says, yeah, we ain't going to be giving no hometown discount. We're going to take the Leafs to the wood chipper on that one. And fans were just like, man, for a guy who was born in the city, you want to make it that much difficult. It's just a PR nightmare, I think, of the Marner camp, of how they handled everything. That's kind of where I say in a lot of ways good riddance, because like the Leafs just it's enough of a circus in Toronto. They don't need that. And as much as Mitch Marner is a phenomenal player, I think there's probably some stuff we don't hear about and how his stuff leads into the locker room and how it impacts the rest of the team.
Dave, hypothetical. Mitch Marner leads Vegas to a Stanley Cup in his first season. Can you even, right now in this moment, imagine that feeling or speak to what that would maybe feel like?
You know what happened when the Leafs traded Phil Kessel to Pittsburgh? What happened?
I remember.
He went to win on not one.
No,
two Stanley Cups.
I've got memorabilia. I got some championship T-shirts in the closet. That was fun. I got to say that was unbelievable.
The HBK line.
What a fun time. What a fun time. We loved Phil Kessel.
To me, that was kind of that was like the small, like that's just the appetizer. Marner winning in Vegas, it would make a lot of people sick to their stomachs. I will say, not myself. I would say, you know what? Good for Mitch. I could take the high road on this because you know what? If it would be kind of like, I don't think it was going to happen in Toronto. Good that as long as he also doesn't say anything to throw any shade at Toronto. So if he throws shade at Toronto, and I'm going to go like, no, we're not going to be happy.
Dave, I'm going to pretend that you did not compare Phil Kessel to being an appetizer, okay? That's how we're going to go into break here.
I mean, the man's a real hot dog.
Apparently he likes his hot dogs, so.
And his Diet Coke.
He doesn't like a good dog. Come on. Come on.
Can't blame him for that. For that. Face of the franchise is still there in Toronto, but coming off a bit of a tough season. How does Auston Matthews bounce back without Mitch Marner and finally take the Leafs back to the conference finals? Let's talk about it next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, a word from our beloved sponsor, which is FanDuel. Look, summer sports are in full swing. Morasudi's Jays, man, leading the AL East for now. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Okay, I've been using it to track my favorite matchup. The app keeps it fresh. New daily promotions and fun ways to bet every day. Easy to use, fast to pay out, makes even those regular season games feel like must-watch events. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Let me say that one more time so you actually believe me. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back here, Locked On NHL Game Night, Season Preview Edition. I'm Cam Stuart, Tyler Feldman with me, Dave Morasudi joining us from Locked On Leafs. And before I get into this next part, Dave, I do have to ask, what is the timeline for Leafs fans in the offseason now? Okay, like the Game 7 loss out of the way, some are more crushing than others. Like, has it gotten to a point where, because it's like legit interesting because the heartbreak comes, but they're still so talented. You know they're going to make something of a run next year. So by like free agency in July, like are we back?
It's funny because there's a picture. I wish I had it readily available. It's like the spinning wheel. Losing Game 7, heartbreak, draft, free agency, get a little intrigued again. Training camp, the excitement's starting to bring back. Regular season, they have the success. We're back, and then the playoff heartbreak again. It's like it's a rotating. Like everyone's just like, yeah, we'll be here right again here next year, right, guys? Absolutely,
here we are.
And that's brutal. That's brutal. You deserve better. Okay, no, I mean, you and the Leafs fans, I might be pillared for saying this, but you and the Leafs fans deserve better, okay?
Wow. Can the Argos at least do this for you or something? I don't know if I want to root for the Leafs, but like the Argos or something.
Hey, man, the 2 Grey Cups in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. This is where the dynasty's happening. And one of the reasons why you guys, I'm sure, get excited throughout several points of the season is because 34 is still out there. Auston Matthews is still a Leaf. He's in his prime years, although you might not have noticed it last year, okay? 78 points, 33 goals in 67 games, okay? Most players are loving that, but for Auston Matthews and the pressure cooker that is Toronto and being the captain for the first year, that wasn't great. And 3 goals in 13 playoff games. We know us Yanks saw him score a whole 0 goals at the Four Nations. It felt like he wasn't living up to the big moments, and the numbers weren't necessarily there. I don't want to say like concern level, because I don't think there's major concern about Auston Matthews, but how desperate are the Leafs and their fans for a bounce back year from Matthews?
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy was not healthy. It was evident he was not the same player last year, and he said it. Training camp wasn't healthy. And when Auston Matthews isn't healthy, you know, like he grinds through it. Like he'll do his best. And look, I remember watching that Four Nations. He probably should have scored like twice in that final game. Like Canada probably should not have won that game because Auston Matthews had the game on his stick a couple times. And that's kind of been Auston Matthews, right? Like his presence, you can't miss it on the ice. He is going to be, you know, in those big moments. It's just sometimes, and I would just recently rewatch Ted Lasso, and I bring up this word that they hate to say, the yips, right? It's like, does he have the yips in those big situations? You know, I remember watching against Florida in that second round where they forced the game 7, and Auston Matthews has a big goal in that game to help bring that you know, the series back to Toronto for game. So we're gonna ignore what happened in that game 7 for a moment here, but it was just evident that he wasn't the same player, and that's why you know, we talked about this actually, and people keep asking us, you think the Leafs are going to be really, really like, you know, low, like, in terms of their expectation to be lower? It says you still got Auston Matthews, you still have William Nylander, John Tavares is back, and so like Auston Matthews, you know, maybe expect him to score 69 goals. Probably, you know, have to temper the expectations on that, especially without Mitch Marner. But this is still one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. And look, he was doing it when Marner, he wasn't even playing with Marner in the first few years in Toronto. Like, it didn't happen till later that the duo was put together. And so I still think that, you know, if he's healthy and the injuries behind him, you're going to see in Auston Matthews that maybe we'll see the Marner departure as kind of his, like a light bulb is going to go off and say, okay, like I have to take the more ownership of this team. He's the captain, right? But there's always like the Marner Matthews combo. Now it's all on Auston Matthews. There's no doubting who is the alpha dog in Toronto.
Okay, that being said, can Auston Matthews bring his Stanley Cup back to Toronto? Do you realistically think he can do that? Is he that guy to accomplish that? Because my perspective, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
When you're wearing a maple leaf on your chest like that, okay? It's Stanley Cup or nothing. That's the reality. Can Auston Matthews bring the cup to Toronto?
Like Leafs fans couldn't care less if he scored, 60 goals, 50 goals, 40 goals. That doesn't matter to him. He's already done that. It's the cup time, right? Like that's I think that's always been his number one goal. I know that he has taken so much weight of the teams of how this team has performed in the playoffs. And I think he is good enough because, he's got the two-way ability. He is not a one-dimensional player.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not good enough. Can he bring the cup, though, to Toronto?
I think that I think there's a realization from this front office that it couldn't just be on Auston Matthews to get it done.
Okay, so did the front office do enough this offseason to make that a reality? Because I don't think they did.
I don't think no.
Do they add someone at what's the next step then? What do the Leafs need to do? Do they need to add someone at the deadline? What's the next play then for Toronto?
I think that's the case there. They left themselves a little bit of flexibility here to say, not only for this year, but going forward, that there is a piece missing on this team. Who do you add?
What's that piece?
Oh, that's a good question because I really don't even know what's out there. Like a couple of people brought up to me, could the Penguins part with like a Brian Rust? And
I think they should. I actually think they will. And Brian Rust, he's now the milkshake man. You get a free milkshake. It used to be Jake Ensel, and then Rust filled that role. I've got friends asking me if Rust leaves, who's going to be the free milkshake guy now? Well, I don't know. But I think that could be a good fit because you look at Gensel with Crosby, and now Gensel's down in Tampa Bay, but a guy that can feed off of a talented player like Matthews and be that goal scorer for Auston Matthews. The Kevin Stevens to Mario Lemieux, the Gensel to Crosby. That could be a reality. I could see that.
Like, frankly, one thing I've always said about the Matthews Marner combo together is those are two guys that are puck dominant. They want the puck. Maybe
you got to be able to skate without the puck.
Yeah, right. But not only that, you just also need a guy that's just going to support Matthews. You know who was one player that had a lot of success with Matthews when Marner was injured? Max Domi. You know why? Max Domi knew he didn't need the puck. Just get it to Matthews, right? And I think that's what Auston Matthews needs. He needs a guy that's going to put him in a better position to be successful. I don't want to say that Marner wasn't doing that, but Marner also was kind of like, I gotta be also taking a bit of the ownership too. So like, I think Auston Matthews I don't think he needs a Mitch Marner. I don't think so, but he does need someone that's going to help. Matthew Knies is good. He just needs one more piece to be with them that's going to help him, especially in the playoffs, in those moments.
And now we got to look at how they actually get there first. The Berube effect. Is he the right guy? How have they already started making moves to get the Leafs to the conference finals for the first time in a long time? That's coming up next on Locked On NHL Game Night.
That's terrible. That's just
it's my lifetime.
We're all laughing because we understand that you don't even have to say anything.
And
it's been that long.
You know how long it's been, guys? Like, I was a kid. I didn't have facial hair. I had hair up here.
Oh,
okay?
It's been that long. Huh?
Okay.
It's been a while. Okay. I 2003, 2004 is what we're talking about here. Like, it's a long time to go without going past the second round of the playoffs.
It had been 86 years since the Red Sox had won the World Series at that point. That didn't happen yet. But let's think of how we get there. Because, you know what? I think it's really unfair. When people say, like, oh, Auston Matthews is a great player, but he's never played in the Stanley Cup final. I think that's totally unfair. How is he supposed to play in the Stanley Cup final if he doesn't make the conference final? I don't think that's very cool. But Craig Berube,
is it unfair that he hasn't played in the conference final?
Well, that we will. We'll talk about.
Serious, because I'm shocked that
is
you're
it unfair? I mean, the game's not.
I'm
fair.
Shocked. You're typically not the person to say something's unfair.
Well, the whole joke was that he hasn't even made the conference final.
I know, but it's your delivery. Okay, I'm just checks and balancing here.
I appreciate this so much, Tyler.
This guy. Don't you dare! Not tonight.
Look, as a Bruins fan, I need the Leafs in my life. I really, that's how sad it's getting for me. But let's talk about the Berube part of it. To bring up sad things for the Bruins fans again. Craig Berube has won a Stanley Cup, and he's brought in because he's kind of a no-nonsense guy, player guy for sure, but can handle this kind of media market. Has been in those games, can win the Stanley Cup, has a style that does still work, definitely, in today's NHL. So how have they been built in Craig Berube's image? He comes in last season. It's not like he's had a ton of time to build this thing. Marner out the door. What is this going to look like under Craig Berube's image?
Yeah, I think he's going to understand that there's going to be a bit of an adjustment from him. They lean heavily on the top guys, right? Even Craig, I thought with Craig Berube they were going to be doing that less. John Tavares played the most in his career in Toronto with Craig Berube. It was just like, so you're playing John Tavares more when many said he probably should be playing less. So there were guys that Craig Berube, became once they bought in, they were the ones that were going to be seeing the opportunity. And people say, the Vegas just gave away Nick Waugh in the Vegas trade. I actually think Nick Waugh will help too, because the problem the Leafs had is they didn't have a dependable third line that Craig Berube, I think, really wanted. They tried so many different things. Max Domi was at time playing third line center when he really isn't a third line center. And I think having the balance now is, I think, where Craig Berube is going to be a lot happier. He can throw out guys to play in the roles that they're more capable of playing. But the biggest impact has been the blue line. Like him and Brad Living have gone so much out of this blue line. Like you look at it, Morgan Riley, Chris Tanev, Jake McCabe, Oliver Larson. Now you got Brandon Carl, the former Bruin, in there, and Simon Benoit, who was like a guy that Anaheim just threw away, and he became a big part of like a depth piece. And that's because Craig Berube has found ways to put these guys into very advantageous positions. And so I think he leans into, not playing a very risky game. And that's the Craig Berube effect, because under Sheldon Keefe, they took risks, right? And it would backfire. I think they're a lot more prepared for certain situations. Like, man, like there are times where the Leafs just against Boston, I would never want the Leafs play Boston. Okay, now last year, a little bit of a different story.
Sure, now, yeah.
Yeah, now a little different.
Good little anecdote, yeah.
But I think that's really where it comes from, is he wants other guys to step up so that he doesn't have to rely on the stars as much. And I think that's going to be the big thing. Like you see the players that they brought in, Dakota Joshua. He's going to be a nasty player for this Leafs team. They really haven't had that, and I think that's Craig Berube, again, bringing in guys that he knows that if he throws them on the ice, he's going to say, go and do this, and it's going to be a successful night for you. And I think that's been the Craig Berube effect. He is, I think, going to make these bottom six guys feel more important than they have ever felt in Toronto.
Dave, where do the Leafs finish next year?
That's a good question, because Tampa, they had a better season than I expected. And they'll always be a good team with Vasilevsky there. And then Florida somehow brought everyone back. So that hurts.
No tariffs in Florida. No tariffs in Florida.
No state tax, no tariffs.
It's working pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And even Ottawa took a step forward too.
Yeah.
And that to me that's where I would say, like, they're going to be fighting for the top three in the division still. Like, they've got the goaltending, right? They got that depth and goaltending of Joseph Wolk. And I think, as good as Anthony Stolarz was last year, I think it's still Joseph Woll that's the future of this net, and he's got the higher ceiling of the two goaltenders there. I think if they make one more addition, though, if they find a way to get another top six winger, then I would comfortably say that they can, fight for the top three. And I think that's where they'll be. They'll be in that conversation for the top three, because with a healthier Auston Matthews, I think the regular season goes a bit better than and they won the division last year, but they didn't have their best player at his best. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. So I think top three, they can still fight for it, because I don't think Boston's really going to be challenging as much this year, given the moves that they made this offseason. Ottawa didn't really get better. They kind of just stayed the same. So unless they make a lot of internal improvements, I don't see them challenging the Leafs just yet. They'll get there one day. I just think it's still early for Boston. And Montreal, I think Montreal, we'll see. They're going to be another wild card team. I don't know if they're good enough to be top three yet. I think there's still some pieces missing there. So that's why I think it's the Toronto and the Florida teams. That's where you're going to be looking out for. And that's why I'm not saying division winners, because I think Florida and Tampa have really good squads, and those are tough teams to have to go up against. But that's why I think 2 or 3 for Toronto in the Atlantic.
Leafs can still get in that top three. We've got a heck of a top three right here. Cam Stuart, Tyler Feldman, Dave Morasudi. Of course, catch Dave with Mike DiStefano on Locked On Leafs every weekday on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. You can catch up with us, catching you up on all 32 NHL team season previews. We'll lead you right up to puck drop in October. You can catch it here on Locked On NHL Game Night. So guys, get involved in the comment section. What do the Leafs need to do to get to the conference final this year? Where do you see them finishing? How much does the Marner thing affect them? Let us know in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can all keep our jobs, and we will see you on the next season preview edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.